Okay, if we can all turn our mics on. We're almost ready. It's almost 7.
Where?
So you didn't add it to the correspondence like you requested?
What's that?
You didn't add it to the correspondence like you requested? That's on your head. That's on your head.
Okay, I'll call to order the Board of Selectmen's meeting Thursday, April 6th at 7 o'clock. We have to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll have public comments first, limited to 3 minutes per person. If anybody would like to speak under public comments.
Do you want me to bring the mic to you?
Mrs. Barnes, 107 Lumlot Road, Southbury. Also owner of 129 Lumlot, Southbury, which is the property that I am...
Careful of the cord. Ooh.
Careful. 129 Lumlot, the property which I'm here regards to. I will start by saying that our son tried to settle the situation of the mailbox and the post through 2 avenues. Prior to this, he kind of gave it up because he hadn't had any success. I thought it would be appropriate to come before the Board of Selectmen to present my concern regarding the mailbox, and hopefully the town of Southbury will come forward and take responsibility. The mailbox, as you can see, pole and post, mailbox, whole entire thing was totally taken out by the plow and the storm we had in March. We had about 16 inches or so of snow. Tried to get some resolution, and I'm very disheartened and dismayed to say that in probably about a long time ago when Mr. Cooper was the first selectman, the plow had taken out my mailbox, which is 107 Lumlot, which is a red barn plastic, totally blew it to smithereens. And under Mr. Cooper's administration, I must say that the gentleman, Mr. Tom Crow, did take responsibility for the town and did replace the mailbox at that time. So I'm hoping that the town of Southbury will do likewise, even though I have had not any success through the Public Works Department. Pictures that you have show, and I don't have that many, so you have to share, show a mark going up the curb, if you can see. We never had a curb on Lumlot for the almost 40 years I've lived there, but this summer when they paved the road, they added a curb on both sides. That mark is a mark from a piece of metal going up the hill. There's marks going down the hill, and you can, I invite you to peruse down Lumlot Road. You can see where the plow scraped the curb, so he was very close to the mailbox along the way. And most of the mailboxes on Lumlot did get bipped, but not to this extent, as you can see. Mine at 107 lost a door. Several others were tipped over lopsided. This one was totally taken off the post and bent in half. Part of the curb has already started to show rust marks, so that proves that the white streaks are made from a metal object. There is no other metal object that I know of that went up Lumlot or down Lumlot in the past month and a half or so, so it has to have been the plow. Plow hit the mailbox. I have repeatedly requested that it be replaced. I would hope that the town would take responsibility. If you look at the way Lumlot, if you want to drive up Lumlot, drive down Lumlot, coming up the hill, which is on the right side where this mailbox was mutilated, you need to attain speed because he's coming up from down in the gully where Lewis went in the ditch that a couple of years ago. So you need to maintain speed, and you're coming up to a curve before you hit the straightaway where the mailbox that you now see is the dilapidated temporary replacement for the mailbox. So he had to be coming up with some speed. I don't think he did it on purpose. I wouldn't think so. But he hit the mailbox, and if you look at, well, I have a transposed picture. The original mailbox on the post, I'm going to give him that one, please. There's a post, so the mailbox actually stood out further, right at the curb. It's a sort of a transposed picture of the original post, because this one
I'm sorry.
has it just sitting.
Michelle, we limit it to 3 minutes.
Oh.
Okay?
All right. Could I say something?
You can, if you're next.
Okay, I'd like to give my 3 minutes to Michelle.
No, that's good. Okay, thank you. That worked out. It's like Congress, okay? Okay, so,
Is this a filibuster?
no, it's not a filibuster, but I think it can use
That doesn't exist anymore.
That's legal, right?
Oh, okay.
Long story made
Well, we've
short.
never run into this before.
Okay, long story made
Do
short.
we have a legal opinion
Okay.
from?
The picture that I received from one of the offices in town, which shows a sight line, is not accurate, because if you look at it, it's kind of odd that the snow, where the curb is a darker mark which shows that the snow is removed from the curb, the berm, whatever you want to call it. The box does not fall over on its own. The snow is not that heavy at the bottom of the hill compared to the snow at the top of the hill. Both the amount of snow at the top of the hill that falls, the same amount of snow that falls at the bottom of the hill. And I would hope that under this situation, because the town and Public Works does have many situations where they've requested that the people in town pay for, like, for example, the $90,000 of salt and sand that we requested to give additional funds one year, when we gave 2 truckloads of sand and salt to Richfield, along with other situations whereby 2 loaders were traded in to CAT. The younger loader had more hours on it than the older loader, which in reality didn't have 23,000 hours, it really had 13,000 hours on it. So I think the town kind of got taken on that one, and we spent $440,000 to buy 2 new loaders to replace that loader. So I would hope that the town would be considerate and take into consideration a resident who's lived here almost 40 years, and please pay to replace the mailbox in the post. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Any other public comments?
We should look
Let's,
You're on this one? You got it, right?
I have to make it a little bit taller.
You got to sit down, Marion.
This is an old pro speaking.
I had a microphone though. Makes you want to sing, but you don't want to hear me sing.
please state your name.
Yeah.
For
My
the
name is Marion Manzo. I'm a resident of Southbury and a member of the Region 15 Board of Education. I am here tonight to fight for Region 15 and for Southbury in opposition to Senate Bill 1019. And along with me is Mr. Sirianni and Mrs. Butkus, also on the Board of Education, also in opposition to this bill. I'm asking tonight for the Board of Selectmen to make a strong opposition to Senate Bill 1019. For those of you that don't know, Senate Bill 1019 was done by a small contingent of Middlebury people. It was a bill proposed by Senator Joan Hartley to allow the minority on the Board of Education to have a crossover vote. So that means that the minority would have to vote and approve any budget, for any budget to go through, regardless of what the majority feels. So basically it's a veto power over the majority at any time. I know there's always been tension between Middlebury and Southbury, but it seems that they've really kicked it up a notch this time. And in addition to proposing this bill, I don't know if you've also heard that the Middlebury RTC directed their board members to not vote in favor of any school budget above a 0%. So there is definitely a power move by a certain contingent of people from Middlebury to take over control of the Board of Education. And this bill, in addition to being, this power move is unconstitutional on its face because it violates the one person, one vote rule. Basically, Southbury pays 70% of the school budget, and it should have a proportional say in that budget representing themselves on the Board of Education. I would also like to say thank you very much to Selectman Buxbaum, who helped us at a time where we just found out about this hearing taking place. The day before the hearing, it was a surprise bill that no one really understands how it got past screening and slapped on for a public hearing, but luckily or unluckily for Mr. Buxbaum, I had his cell phone number, and I was texting him and Mr. Rosen furiously trying to figure out, how to. So Mr. Buxbaum was very helpful in giving me information for our state reps, and I know Mr. Rosen has also been helping behind the scenes as well. And I also would just also say my appreciation for Representative Art O'Neill and Dave Labriola and Eric Berthel, who helped us throughout that whole process on Monday to testify against against this bill before the Education Committee. Without their help, we would not have known exactly how to navigate the whole process. Currently, the bill has passed the Education Committee.
I have to limit the
Yep.
3 minutes. We are taking Bill 1019 up,
Okay?
so if you could stick around,
If
That-
you say so, I will.
that will be
All
fine.
right,
We may
thank
ask
you.
you some questions, if that's okay.
Yep.
I apologize, but
That's all
that's,
right. Thank you.
okay? If you'd like to wait till we bring that up. Any other public comments?
Good evening.
Sorry, you have 3 minutes.
It's a small card. Start now. As Mrs. Steve Sirianni, Board of Education. So I just want to say, look, I understand, I'm not naive. Not everyone is in favor of budget increases, education, municipal, Southbury, Middlebury. And I'm all for a way that, as Board of Ed or Board of Selectmen, we can garner support for budgets from both towns. And I understand the history that has led us to this day, 20, 30 years of Southbury, Middlebury, Region 15, and the growth in Southbury, which has caused us to be the majority. But I feel like what they've done flies in the face of collaboration and openness and open government. And I'm here to request, I know it's on your agenda, but I do feel that I'd like to ask the Board of Selectmen to decide if they want to issue a statement and decide if they wish to take any kind of action, whether it's by reaching out to our legislators in Hartford with your combined influence or any other means that you may think of. And would just add, again, at the end of the day, Southbury pays roughly 70% of the Region 15 budget, and the bill out there, SB 1019, diminishes the rights of Board of Ed members, so elected people on Region 15, and I think it diminishes the rights of all our constituents, as Ms. Manza said, by really taking away from the one person, one vote rule that she spoke of. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Presentation by John Cattell, the Director of Public Works. John?
Yep.
Good evening.
Good evening, thank you.
Always
Nice
good to
seeing
see you again.
all. I'm here just to give you a little information update. In February 21st, we had a surprise OSHA visit. This is something that we were hoping to originally plan to invite them in, but they kind of beat us to the punch on this one. It was a 2-day event. They went throughout the whole town. First day, they inspected the community center, public works, transfer station. Came back the second day and inspected town hall, police headquarters, the library, and the gun range. We had a follow-up meeting with the inspector in March 24th. We'll eventually get their formal written documentation on the inspection. Overall, as a town, we did above average. We had issues. You can go to any building in any place and actually find something if you want to find it. We had some issues with fire extinguishers not being checked every month. We had some ladders that were a little bit dinged and bent, so we had to toss them. We had some unlabeled containers that you use kind of catch some of the chemical or whatever it is, drips from a barrel or something like that. Someone uses a plastic container to catch it, but it's not labeled as to what it is. Appliances, which any kitchen appliance, and this is for you to know at home too, you're not supposed to have any type of kitchen appliance plugged into a power strip. So if you have a coffee pot at home and or a toaster or something like that, those are no-nos. Even if there's a surge suppression on it, those are violations. And there's some general house cleaning issues that we just had to clean up to make sure that we could get a bit to everything. So we had a massive clean up and throwing out those parts that you kind of hold on to for 5 years or plus that you don't, nobody uses. So we haven't, like I said, haven't received a formal documentation letter on it, which should be coming within a couple of weeks. But in our closing, or in our meeting with them, basically said, Town of Southbury, you guys did pretty good when compared to all other towns. So that's pretty much it for that. And I think I'm on the agenda for other things, so I'll come back to that. Thank you.
Okay.
John, you were saying fire extinguishers have to be inspected every month?
They're checked. There's if like our trucks all have fire extinguishers in them, and because of that, each month you're supposed to look at it to make sure that the pin's still in it, it's still in the green charge.
So you don't have to bring an outside inspector in?
No, that's once a year where you actually get them inspected by an inspection company. But monthly, somebody should be looking at it just to make sure it's still green and all. Just to go along with that, we had some training since that on HAZCOM, Bloodborne, Work Zone Safety. HD Seeger came in and gave that. We have some more training planned for the month of May with lockout, tagout, chainsaw, and fire extinguishers operation with fire extinguishers and stuff like that. And some Work Zone Safety, we have that on the 29th.
John's been pretty busy with a number of things, part of which was this, which was put onto his plate. We did very well according to, they don't have the final report out yet, but we, compared to what they've seen in other towns, he said you did pretty well. They obviously have to make sure that somehow they document they actually went to each building somehow. So, did you really go to town hall? Yes, see? So and it's kind of interesting. One of the things is, if you're expected to use a fire extinguisher, you have to
Be trained on.
be trained. However, if your policy is get out of the building, which ours is, just leave the building, then you don't have to be trained, which is kind of a strange, but anyway, that's, okay, there's the government. So anyway, we did not too bad.
Is it commonplace for them to just pop in?
Yes, there's two divisions in OSHA. One is that you can call them up and invite them in, and they'll go through and work with you and everything else. The other ones is they kind of do a random, and I think they did a couple of the nearby towns also the same day, or in that time. The other one is surprise visit. They haven't been here for 6-7 years or something like that, so then they decide to come in on their own. And this is the OSHA that's for the municipal. You have OSHA that gets involved with contractors and commercial vendors. That's a whole little bit of a different division too.
Do you know if it affects our insurance coverage? If because we're on the good side of it, that
I don't
maybe
think
it impacts it well?
I don't think it'll, one way or the other.
Really?
I don't think it'll make. No. I mean, we're like I said, we're doing some work up at the transfer station. We may see some fall protection being installed that we're working on, things like that too, to make it better.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Jason.
rather than keep the Public Works Director here for a while, why don't we, does it make sense to just go to whatever other items
Sure we can.
he needs to do? Is it I'd like to make a motion to proceed to item H on the agenda. I believe that's where you come up next.
Item,
H, bids and procurement.
No, the Riverbank project and the tractor.
okay.
I'll
What
second
we'll
that.
do is, let me do this. Announcements and correspondence is there. We don't have a problem with that. The consent agenda, is there any question on the consent agenda? Anything you want to pull out or talk about, or is you all set?
I just had, well,
Yeah.
I had one, just the fire police. Have we ever done that before? Is that where that?
Yeah, we always have fire police.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
it.
unfamiliar
Yeah.
with that term.
I'll entertain a motion on the consent.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Have a second? Okay, made a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Consent agenda. Entertain a motion on the minutes of March 16th, 2017.
So moved.
Got a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it carries. Okay,
There you go.
bids and procurements.
There you go.
There you go. Sorry, I held you up a few more minutes, John. Gave you a chance to get a breath. Anyway, bids and procurements. Could you explain the Valentine Park Riverbank project, which we've been working with went out to bid?
So, yeah, this is a project that started probably a couple years ago almost. Back over by the basketball courts where it's kind of eroding down. You've got a couple trees that are falling down into the bank. So the project is to stabilize that. There was a grant, a federal grant from U.S. Fish and Wildlife to stabilize it. I believe they started getting into it, and then they said, lo and behold, we had about 3,000 years ago, some tribe decided to have a campsite there, and said, wait a second, we got to do a archaeological dig on this thing and the whole bit.
We did 3 digs.
3 digs.
Three.
Yeah.
Different levels of digs.
Yeah, different phases. So that finally got completed last fall, and so now we're at the stage of let's go actually do the stabilization of the bank. We went out, there's 8 bids, bid responses, and the lowest bid was, it's actually River Valley Construction Company that came in with a bid of the base plus several alternates for $113,345. We are not selecting the alternate A15E because that would put us over budget. Budget's about $120,000. So that 113 gives us enough to get the job done, as well as some oversight cost that goes to that.
Were there other bids, John?
There are 8 other bids,
8 other bids, wow.
or 7 others, total of 8.
Oh, yeah.
Total of 8 bids.
So this would be fully covered by the wildlife?
Yes. There is obviously more in the budget than 120,000. A lot of that kind of got used up in doing our little dig.
Well, and the engineer.
And engineering.
Engineering.
Just technical specs and everything else.
And it was low bid. It was a low bid. Any other questions of John?
Have they done work for us before this?
No, they have not.
Do we know that they've done work in the area that?
They've done work, a couple other towns, Southington is where they're out, they've been on call for them. I think Marlboro was another one that they've done work with that said that they were happy and conscientious. So town of Southington, talked to their.
So you did some reference checks? on
Yes.
them? I'm just surprised their bid is so much lower than,
And there is a bond.
Yeah, there'll be a performance bond, payment bond that goes along with it once it's awarded.
Okay, any questions, other questions? Entertain a motion.
I move that we award this contract to,
Resolved that the Board of Selectmen, upon recommendation of the Director of Public Works, hereby awards the bid for the Valentine Park Riverbank Stabilization Project to Valley Construction Company in the amount
It
of
should be River Valley.
yeah, that's what I was trying to find.
River Valley Construction.
River Valley Construction Company in the amount of $113,345 to perform the base bid along with all the alternates except alternate AE-5E, which are the staked log steps. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It carries. Kubota tractor?
So, in our budget, was approved, purchase a Kubota tractor along with a few attachments. The bid came in, it's a state bid that we're actually going off of, state contract bid. So for the cost of the tractor and all the various attachments, it's $70,086.76. Our old Kubota, we're trading that in. We're getting a credit for that for the $6,500, which nets us out at a cost of $63,586.76. This comes out of the vehicle replacement account, which was approved for the tractor as well as some attachments at $69,000.
I asked John about the one trading in, and it has evidently has a bad transmission, which is a very expensive repair. So there's an issue there. Any questions of John?
What's the expected life of the tractor? I mean, the other one seemed to have lasted quite a long time. 20 years.
Yeah, no,
Well, it's almost 20 years on the old one.
it's almost, yeah, I mean, I would hope to get to 20 years on that one also. It's a good piece of equipment, so.
Is this a scheduled replacement on the replacement?
I believe this was in the.
Yes, it was.
This is
Yeah.
This was in the
budget.
equipment, I think.
And this
Standard
was about
schedule.
the time when you were
Right.
planning to replace it anyway.
And this is not something we can share with another town, it's something we use on a
This is something that we're
regular
going to be
basis.
using a lot of ourselves.
Yeah,
There's
there's
various
snow
attachments.
removal, a lot of attachments, that's why there's a cab on it, yeah,
Yeah.
trails. Yep.
This is all
Credit
season.
gets us under budget.
I'll move it.
Jennifer has moved to resolve that the Board of Selectmen, upon the recommendation of the Director of Public Works, hereby awards the bid for the purchase of a Kubota tractor and attachment to RNS Rent Retail Sale and Sales as a total net cost of $63,586.76. We have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Made and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it carries, thank you.
Thank you.
John, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you
Thanks,
for your
John.
work. Okay,
Maybe we should
Is he
carry
doing that?
Jason's idea forward and also move our discussion of SB 1019 up so these nice folks can go home to their families a little bit earlier.
I think that makes sense.
can we get through the transfers quick?
Oh, yeah.
Any questions on the transfers?
Oh, sorry.
It's all routine. We can do that if you want to discuss the transfers.
I just wanted to know when the animal control officer is that on the radar to be,
It is on the radar.
thank you.
Stop and see me.
Make a motion to approve the transfers?
Have a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Okay. Then we'll use to unfinished business strategic plan quickly.
The only update is we hope to come at the next meeting with the list of names for the other participants who have not yet been vetted by you guys.
Great.
And then we are having our first meeting on the 27th at 4 o'clock, and we are moving along quite well.
Good interest?
We've had three residents apply for the 2 resident spots so far. And we haven't had a lot of feedback from the commissions, but a couple of names have come up.
They will.
We're excited about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the work. Okay, new business. We're going to talk about Bill 1019. As you know, also, George Bertram sent a letter, I have sent a letter in on this bill. It's obvious that, I think, for me, my position is that I represent the people of the town of Southbury. And their weighted vote, I look at this as the region is a separate piece, and it's run by them, and our vote counts for the number of people we have. So I'll open this up. I've already stated my position in a letter early on. Jason, you want to get your concern out there?
Sure.
We'll
Thanks,
start
Jeff.
there.
Yeah, I was hoping we would take this up. This is our first meeting since the state senate, since the bill had a public hearing and since the education committee approved the bill. I'll just make one clerical note. The bill on the screen, I don't believe is the bill that was approved, right, guys? So there's a substitute bill that is the bill that was approved that is directed solely at the town of Southbury, solely at Region 15. The substitute bill reads, notwithstanding the provisions of Part 3 of Chapter 164 of the General Statutes or any plan of representation established by the State Board of Education, pursuant to Section 10-63S of the General Statutes, any vote taken by the Regional Board of Education for the Region 15 School District on a proposal relating to the budget for said district shall require at least one member of said board from each member town to be in the majority for approval of such proposal. So my position on this is there's 169 municipalities in the state of Connecticut. This bill negatively impacts one of those municipalities, and that's the town of Southbury. And as the Board of Selectmen, we represent the town of Southbury. We pay 70% of the school budget here in the town of Southbury, and we're entitled to 70% of the vote. I think there should be proportional voting on that. I agree with everything Marion and Steve said. I mean, it does not seem to be a constitutional proposal. It does violate the one person, one vote doctrine. It's fundamentally unfair to the people of the town of Southbury, to our children, to our education system, to our board members. We, I believe, as a Board of Selectmen, we don't have votes up at the state legislature, but I do believe that we have some influence. It's disappointing to me that this bill came up. It negatively impacts 1 out of 169 municipalities in the state of Connecticut, and we were never notified. The Education Committee didn't say, hey, Southbury, what do you guys think? It just sort of happened over a few-day period, and that's disappointing. I know our representatives are working hard on this issue. I've spoken to Art, Dave, and Eric, and they're all very active, and they've been active in helping Marion and Steve when they went up to testify, and I'd like to thank them for doing that. They spent all day up in Hartford to testify against this bill. But I think it's important for us as members of the Board of Selectmen to stand up for the town of Southbury and make a strong statement against the bill and ask the state legislature in whatever terms we can and whatever means are appropriate to either not bring this bill up or to vote this bill down and encourage our constituents to reach out to their legislators, reach out to their friends in Middlebury and have them reach out to their legislators, reach out to Senator Hartley, reach out to the Democratic leadership, and let them know that this is a bill that negatively impacts 1 out of 169 towns unfairly and is not something that should be permitted, because the repercussions of this, if you do it here, where else are you going to do something like this? It's really, it's giving the veto power to the minority, and I just don't think that's an appropriate method of dealing with the issues that concern the town of Middlebury. I understand their issues, but there is political processes in place to deal with those issues, not taking votes. So I would encourage our board to do something, make some statement to oppose this bill. Thank you.
Mike?
I concur with everything that Selectman Bucksbaum said. I do want to thank our board members, all of you here. I have the pleasure of attending some meetings, and I was at the meeting 2 weeks ago, two meetings ago, when we talked about the budget, and I addressed this to the Board of Education in public comments, not as a representative of the Board of Selectmen of Southbury, but as a citizen of Southbury and as a parent of 2 students in the Region 15 schools and a huge fan. If I might, I'd like to read a letter that I have written to Senator Hartley, and that I also sent to Representative Fleischman, 2 Democratic representatives in Hartford. I have also sent the same letter and have spoken with Lieutenant Wyman's office regarding this matter, and versions of this same letter were sent to them all. So if it pleases the board, I'd like to. Senator Hartley, I'm writing as one of 2 Democratic members of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Southbury regarding SB 1019. I've copied my other Democratic colleague, Justin Betty, on this email. Since moving to Southbury from Long Island in 2009, my wife and I have had to fight each year for the children, teachers, and administration of Region 15 against the leadership in Middlebury and their hand-picked Board of Education members, who with each breath and action have worked to denigrate the quality of education delivered to Region 15 students from both Southbury and Middlebury. Let there be no doubt that they put their re-election campaigns and desperation to maintain power over their youngest constituents on a daily basis. Moreover, they pit seniors against families with school-aged children with constant fear-mongering and finger-pointing, blaming Region 15 for their own long history of mismanagement and questionable leadership. I'm at a loss for words now to have to do the same with a fellow Democrat, especially in today's challenging economic climate, with the state asking towns to bear a tremendous financial burden to continue to deliver the highest quality public education. How can you turn your back on the core values of our party and on the most vulnerable of your constituents? From all I've read and heard, I'm concerned you don't understand the disastrous implications of eliminating the equitable system currently in place in Region 15's successful partnership with Southbury and Middlebury. Worse, I'm concerned you've been fed a series of mistruths and, if history serves, lies by certain members of Middlebury's leadership and Board of Education representatives. This bill does not give Middlebury equitable voting rights. They already have it, and it would seem to violate the state and U.S. constitutional doctrines of one person, one vote. This bill is attempting to solve a problem that doesn't exist. It does one thing and one thing only. It gives the anti-public education Republican Board of Education members under the direct command of Mr. St. John the ability to block progress, to stand in the way of advancing a 21st century education for Region 15 students, and to place the burden of their poor leadership on the backs of Southbury and Middlebury's children and teachers, as well as their families. And it will forever align you with them. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak directly with you to understand your rationale for supporting such a bill and to provide additional thoughts on the negative impact this will have for the future of Middlebury and Southbury's economy and the quality of education. My contact information is below. Thank you. Sincerely, Mike Rosen. I did not hear back from Senator Hartley or Representative Fleischman's office. Within 24 hours, I heard back from Lieutenant Wyman's office and spoke to Bruce, what is Bruce's last name? It's a senior policy representative. His last name escapes me right now. Bruce Adams, who's a senior policy advisor to Lieutenant Wyman, who is speaking with the Lieutenant Governor and going to brief her later in the week. I'm supposed to speak to him next week to get feedback. And I've asked specifically where the Governor and Lieutenant Governor stand on this bill. This is not, however, in my opinion, a Democratic or Republican issue. This is an issue, and I don't believe, frankly, it's even just an attack on Southbury, because I believe that the people of Middlebury have equally as much to lose by an attack on our system that has been successful, that has produced an incredible amount of great students who are now doing great things in the world, who have produced great student athletes. This bill does one thing, like I said. This is about power. Power and power only. And I strongly urge this board to make a public statement of opposition against this bill and encourage residents of both Southbury and Middlebury and across the state, because as Jason said, this has a ripple effect that will be disastrous to public education throughout the state, especially as the state's seeking to encourage regionalization to try to save money. It would be an absolute disaster. We need to stand up not only for the people of Southbury, but for the people of Southbury, Middlebury, and the entire state. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. I think you're right. This is definitely not partisan in this town. George.
Well, I share in the sense of outrage that I've heard. I don't think I could speak any more eloquently than the previous two selectmen, so I'll minimize my commentary to say that I feel pretty much the same way. I think this is an affront to the people of Southbury. I feel it's an outrage, and I would support whatever actions that we think will do any good at all. And I do believe Region 15 is a very strong system. It's a good system, and I think if it does split up, which is a possibility here, I think Middlebury will be the one that gets hurt, and Southbury will come out just fine. So I think in this case, Middlebury is doing damage to their own best interests. And again, I'll support whatever action the board feels is appropriate.
Thank you, George. Thank you for your letter. Jennifer, would you like to speak to this?
For the life of me, I can't understand how it passed the Education Committee. The iniquity of it, the precedent that it sets, and the harm that it does, not to necessarily just Middlebury or Southbury, but to our future generations. Thank you for all that you're doing. And I'm in support of whatever we can do to further your cause. But also, I think we need to appeal to the greater community and publicize the fact that this is going on, because so many people do not know it. You're involved in you're in the know. We're in the know, but a lot of the public, they're not in the know. So we need to make them in the know, so that they can write their legislators. They can bring this issue to light.
Justin, you have children in this region.
Yes, well, I graduated from Region 15, and my children are entering it. Our oldest son is in kindergarten right now, so I thank you very much for your efforts and certainly support you however we can. I don't see any way that you can look at this bill and not see it. If it were to pass, it would be the beginning of the end of Region 15. And I would echo George's comment that I think Southbury is much better situated to absorb that. And I really wonder how many other parents in Middlebury have a full grasp of what this could really mean for them and the quality of the education that their children are going to get, and also what it would do to their property values. People come to this area because of Region 15. I see it daily in my normal job. So, it's a very important issue, and anything that we can do to support the region and to defeat this bill's passage, we must do.
We should do.
So I want to just say, my personal thoughts on this, the economy of scale of our school system and what Southbury has delivered to the region. They've gotten a tremendous amount of support, even though we have the largest percentage of seniors population in the state. And I will pretty much say I feel that most of the seniors in this town believe in education. And I've seen that in many of the votes. It's one of the top-rated school systems that there is. The scale that we've given, the opportunities that have been given to our students in the region has benefited Middlebury tremendously for the value that they got. 70% of the vote, 30% of the vote. All you have to do, and I'm not knocking any other towns, they're being sent to their school system, to their high school. It's not been sent out to other high schools or Seymour High School or other schools. So there's been a tremendous benefit, dollar benefit from that. I will say here, that's my parents, my children, a lot of my family went through this school system. I still believe in this school system. Whether I believe in this or not, I work at the direction of the people of the town of Southbury, and so does this board. The people of the town of Southbury direct us in a direction that is not favorable to some others. We will move in that direction if we have to. So if we're all in agreement, I don't know quite what we are looking to do.
What would
Go ahead,
be
Rob.
Well, I'd like, before we decide if it pleases the board, I'd like to invite, if those who did not speak, and I think we have the ability to do though, there are some others in the audience who stayed for this specific bill, certain members of the Board of Education who came in after the fact. If there's anything you want to add, now's the time to do it.
We'd invite you in to speak.
So we'd invite you in to speak. Now is the time to do it based on what you've heard today. If not, that's fine too.
I think you see a clear direction from us. If you have any questions or
One thing I would
direction.
ask is, what would you want us to do? Go on. And introduce yourself.
And
Sorry, I should know to do this. Janet Buckus, Southbury.
as representative, you sit on the Board
And,
of
yes,
Education.
I sit on the Board of Ed.
How many
Former
years?
chairman of the Board of Education.
For 7 years now.
Okay.
Former
7
chairman,
years.
right.
7.5 years? 7.5 years. I just want to support what you've said tonight. I heard a lot of very dramatic statements, but I think that's important to get people's attention on this issue. And I would encourage the Board of Selectmen to put that in a cohesive letter. And you've inspired me to write a letter to the editor about this topic too. So I just want to support your efforts and encourage you to send, put that in a cohesive statement for our state representatives.
Thanks, Janet.
Okay. On the board,
All right,
on this topic of Bill 1019, please.
Yeah, Jennifer Conley. I'm also a member of the Board of Education, and I did come in late. My apologies, so if I'm repeating something, I'm sorry. And I do thank you all very much for considering this. And I know that people have talked about us trying to make a compromise, and are we being fair to Middlebury? And I just want you to remember that the weighted vote, the way that it is structured, in that Middlebury members are a 0.66 and Southbury members are a 1.25, I believe. Obviously, it is due to the population and the dollar amounts, but that gives Middlebury 4 voices. They're each a 0.66, but it gives them 4 voices. So there's 4 voices at every board meeting. There's 4 people that can be on different committees. So there is a compromise in our structure already to account for the fact that they are only only worth 30% to our 70%. we could go down to 3 Middlebury members and have them each be 1. And we could add a Southbury person and we'd have 7. But they would lose a voice. So, there is a compromise there. So if there is talk of compromise at the legislative level, I just want to remind them that there's a compromise built in there. They are doing better having 4 voices with a .66 vote versus having 3 with 1 vote, in my mind.
What would it take to make that happen, make 7-3?
I don't know if that is legislative or the State Board of Education. That's who set it up.
It would probably be the State Board of Education that would have to, we always have the ability, along with Middlebury, to come up with a different plan of representation. The reason why the State Board of Education stepped in 2004 to do the weighted votes, because the towns could not come to an agreement. And I think at that time there were 3 failed referendums, and so that's why the State Board of Education came in and said, do you guys figure this out, or we're going to do the weighted vote? And the weighted vote is what carried. So by law, which I believe Macon General Statutes 1063S, it says how we can change by agreement the vote. But, we could do 7 people in Southbury, 3 people in Middlebury, and everyone would have the power of weight of 1 vote.
Right.
Or
Well,
we could do
that's
4 people in Middlebury and 9 people in Southbury. So there's different things that can be done. Whether Middlebury would agree to that, I don't know.
And that is a question that should be answered. Sorry, is it the towns? It was my understanding back then that it was the towns who had to finish something else. That there was no board of ed to do this. So I don't know if this reverts back to the towns.
Shouldn't this issue have gone to the Board of Ed, the State Board, whatever they call it, before it got to
State
the
Board of
legislator?
Education.
I mean,
Yes.
why would the legislature, yeah, it's like
That's
jumping
bizarre.
over the process.
Exactly. That was the problem. But as I understand, the Education Committee is empowered to kind of overrule that process. And I have been in contact with the State Board of Education to try to find out what their position is on this and see what they're going to do about it, because they're the ones who made this decision in the first place. And I don't know if what they're gonna be doing as of yet. They're dealing with a lot more bigger fish to fry than this issue. But I know, right? The education is a mess with the state.
So I think getting back to Mike's question, I don't mean to, we all want to talk about this because we're a little frustrated. I will say that it's my experience that, it's nice to have, if instead of 3, you have 4, because they give somebody picks up a different perspective. There's nothing wrong with that because you get some more information. But I think Mike was a great question, is what are you looking for us to do? Please.
So I think perhaps if you all are going to draft up a resolution or some kind of statement, maybe, obviously I don't think the Board of Ed is going to be doing something like that, but maybe the Southbury members who are all in agreement would do the same, and maybe we just literally have them side by side, and we can use that as part of mail them to, we've got our own mailing list, we can mail it out and ask people to write their constituents at the appropriate time. I think part of the problem is we don't really know what's going to happen next. I feel like I've got to wake up one morning and find out that it's being voted on that day. So maybe if there's one person on either board that is sort of the point person for the public publicity campaign, that might be something as well.
We've been holding off on going full blown with telling this to the public, and I kind of want to follow the directive of our state reps and on how to handle this. And so I was basically also looking to them for guidance. I wanted to also meet with Senator Hartley, Bob Duff, Senator Glassberg. I have an ambitious list of people that I'd like for us to talk to. And I think it would help to have citizens write in as well, but we've been holding off way
I have to say, this is a kind of a delicate spot. I have this analogy where someone put the wedge into the wood and they tapped it. And we may want to tap it also. And it could lead to a lot of people tapping on that wedge and split the log. And I've many times said this in whether it's in my personal life, dealing with different things, with family stuff. Do you want to continue to drive the wedge? How far do you want to drive it? Because once it's split, the damage is done, and it's going to be difficult to get it. Is that what you intend to do? So I think you're right. Our representatives are out there working this. I don't want to see it become a bigger issue between our, because I don't want the overflow. One of my cautions on this, or concerns, is I don't want it to drift in to our school system. I do not want it to become an us and them. I do not want it to become I'm from Middlebury. I don't want to see that happen between our, and it could. So I just want to be cautious about this. We know how we feel. I think we need to look at the direction, the people, the professionals in Hartford that we send there, and look at what they're telling us. We can let them know our position. I think we can send a note about how we feel we're being singled out. That's correct. But if you're in agreement, I think we want to make sure that they handle this in Hartford. If that makes sense, Mike.
Well, so one, in terms of the point of a wedge, I think that is in some ways what's trying to be done here. But I believe that wedge is being driven right now by a teeny tiny faction who happens to be a leadership faction of our neighboring town and our partners in Region 15. I don't believe, based on the support that the budget got, which was nearly, not fully, but despite the Middlebury RTC's directive, was nearly unanimously approved, with one abstention. I think it gives too much credence to those who have devised this scheme, and that is what it is. I think, I am cautiously optimistic that there is a majority of our neighbors in Middlebury and a majority of our citizens here who would vociferously oppose this bill when they understand the reality of it, that there is a myth in this bill that it is bringing equity, when the absolute truth is that it is devastating and destroying the equitable system that we have. And I am not comfortable. I emailed the first selectman the day I found out about this, saying, what are we going to do about it? I believe we have a responsibility to issue a public statement. It can be tempered. It should be rational and reasonable. But I believe we have a responsibility to move with speed to issue a public statement of opposition. And I'd encourage us to reach out both as a bipartisan board and to our representatives, as we've done in the past, in favor and opposed to other things in our time together here, in opposition to this bill. I'm more than glad to work with Jason or someone else on that draft. It should be short and sweet. It doesn't necessarily have to have the dramatic language that my letter had to Senator Hartley, but it was certainly with intent. But I do believe that we have a responsibility to issue a public statement, and I'd be very uncomfortable if we did not.
I agree with you in the tempering of the language, and I think what we can do is, Jason and Mike, if you could work together. I think the basic principle here, what I hear at this board meeting, is that, well, you do as well.
What's that?
I think the direction, what we're looking at is, we represent the people of the town of Southbury. We bring a big part to the region because of our size alone and what we've been given to the students of Middlebury also, along with that. And that we feel it's not fair to be singled out individually in this matter versus dealing with it on an all-regional school system basis. it does feel like, personally, to me, it feels like we've been singled out. Is that a basic direction that,
I'd be more than comfortable. I know that Selectman Bucksbaum is very busy right now with work. If the entire board would want to send me some bullet points, their thoughts via email,
You bet.
I will gladly.
I would
And then we
caution,
can-
please send
One-on-one.
them to the office.
Yes. Okay, that's
Do a one-on-one, and then we
then,
can.
or one-on-one.
They'll
Yeah,
put that together.
yeah, individually.
And then we can work on a final.
And that, yep,
draft.
and
Once-
I'll
once I have
draft
a draft,
something,
I can-
Selectman
I can
Bucksman and I
edit.
will work on something, and we'll get it to everybody to review.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I think we should temper it. We don't want to divide people. I mean, that's not what we're here to do, but we do want to protect the people of the town of Southbury. And I think it's important that we issue a statement opposing this bill. And I think that's an important thing to do. You know, one of the things that's going on now is, no one really knows about this. So the Board of Selectmen issuing a statement is going to generate some news. And Maeve's here, so she's going to say something about it next Wednesday. And but Bill's not here, so we want to get our statement out, and we want people to know about it, and we want to try and start influencing this process.
Bill's covered it a little bit already.
I think we need to be proactive.
Yep.
Right now, we've been quiet, we've waited, we're listening, but I think we need to be proactive, and we need to support our Board of Ed members. I personally would attend any meetings with any representatives of the state that you would go to. I would like to know about them. I would go with you.
And I think that, go ahead.
Just, it looks like, based on the CJA's website, that as of the 5th, so that was yesterday,
Yeah.
the bill was referred to the Office of Legislative Research and Office of Fiscal Analysis. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, that means, what it means is,
What is
when they send these
Yeah.
bills out, they have to
So,
know.
but it hasn't gone to the-
what's-
it
it's
hasn't
like
yet
It's
gone
like
to
doing
the-
a grant. What's it gonna cost us?
Right.
And as much as that won't cost anything. They have to look at it.
It's not,
So it takes a process.
It hasn't gone to the,
Yeah,
it hasn't gone on the calendar yet.
My understanding from our reps is this is probably a few weeks off or more, if it ends up coming up at all, which, would be nice. But I think we should keep our eye on it, though, because obviously we can't issue a statement without a meeting. So, and six of us can't email back and forth
Right.
language. So we'll work on something, do it at the next meeting 2 weeks from now. If we find that, hey, this got on the Senate calendar early,
We'll move
then
faster.
we can have
We
a
can-
telephone meeting and
Yep.
approve a statement.
Right, we can have
Yeah,
a
we
special
can do that.
I'll try to get something out over the weekend, everyone.
Okay. All right, are we all set? All right.
Thank you.
Sorry to
Thanks, all.
keep you so late. We have much more to do, and we'll go from there. You'll hear
Thanks,
from
guys.
us. Thank you. All good, all good. It's a great board. We work in a bipartisan manner, and I appreciate that. And this is definitely not any way a partisan thing. Next up, banner policy. They want to do some, John, you want to talk about that? I hate to do that to
Come
you.
on back.
So this is not the final?
Oh, you have too much paper. Too much paper.
I was requested to reevaluate a couple of items on the technical specs for the banner after their Southbury Printing Press was going to make a banner for somebody and was saying that the way our specs was led to a lot of extra costs in the banner, and are all these things necessary? There are about 4 items that were in there that if I could reevaluate them, you have them up there on top. One was the size of the grommets. We specified in our policy to have 1/2 inch internal diameter. It's actually about a number 2, which is close to that 3/8, which works fine for us. We can get the hooks into it. I had no problems with making that change. It's minor. Stitching, we had that it be double folded in 1-inch fold with everything double stitched. There are newer processes also that will do a heat weld onto it that seals it just as well. Concern was that you just didn't have something fraying all over the place. That met the intent of that, so I had no problems with the heat weld on it. And also talked about reinforcement of the corners. Well, when you actually have a 1-inch fold going around everything, that kind of does give you a reinforcement of it. So that was acceptable to me too. The last item there was where we requested wind slots every 5-inch. This is something that, by looking at other towns' policies, seemed that almost every one of them had something to that effect to help reduce the wind force on this. We have ours tied or anchored into trees. One of the trees is, has some internal cavity rot going on it, but it's, where we're anchored into it is pretty strong. Anything that you attach to these is going to stress a tree out. By at least putting some wind slots into it, it helps kind of reduce the stress a bit, especially if you're putting these things up in where you have a full foliage going on with it. I don't have enough information to say, no, I don't care if we don't do that in it. I leave it to the board whether you want to do it or not. But that's, I don't have enough information to say, to waive not having to put the slots in there, at least at this point in time.
I take it that Southbury Crane is unable to create a wind slot in the van?
No, they're able to do it. I think it probably adds a little more cost to it because now they have to think out where they're going to put it, which doesn't distract from the logo of the sign. Depending on how you do it, if it's a 5-inch, you could actually say a 5-inch circle that's cut. I don't think we're really pushing that just as much of a slot where it's kind of like half the diameter, so it could kind of like blow open. Maybe they would be required to put a few extra stitches to where you'd have a pinch point on that so it doesn't tear. So it's pretty much cost, and it maybe affects their artwork. Is the concern I would think that they have with it. And
go along with the chain or create a risk. In your opinion, you're not.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
What's that?
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Seriously.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Yeah. Give them most
Yeah.
of what they want.
So I'm not prepared to waive that and take that risk for you. I'm just going by something where, like I say, in all the other, when we came up with these specs, we looked at other towns, which kind of seemed to be consistent with other towns.
And, I mean, as I recall, almost every town policy we looked at had wind slots.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a sort of a uniform thing in most of the town policies.
Probably a reason.
Wind
why.
slots it is. Wind slots for everybody.
So is there a resolution to change the existing policy reflecting the 1 and 2 change? Or
We can make one.
Are we changing the,
are we
are
changing
we
that
looking to amend the
overall?
policy, or are we looking to waive the provisions for this particular, because we have there's a, I don't have the policy in front of me, but there's a thing in there that we could do that too.
But I hate to, I'm concerned about waiving
I know.
policies on the
So-
safety.
Can we go back to the,
Well, no, I wouldn't waive it on the
So
the
the-
wind.
number
the one
I
question
wouldn't-
I have is, we're making these revisions based on the feedback of one place, of one place, like the revision on the stitching.
Yeah,
That's
the number 1 and 2 is kind of like,
Yeah,
2 is a standard.
like I feel like
grommet.
we
It's
should give
not
a range, I
it's a
feel like,
it's
you
like
know,
a
I feel like we
industry
should give a
standard.
range rather than saying one or the other.
Right.
We should give options or have language that says, or industry standard, industry accepted standard per something. It just feels like we could go on and
or a
on.
minimum
On number 2,
requirement.
I would have no problem say a 1-inch fold, double stitch, and or heat welded.
But what if none of us at least are experts in banner printing or production, and my concern is that someone, I mean Jennifer might be, but if somebody comes and says to us, well, there's another method that's used, why wouldn't you accept that? And I just feel like we're putting ourselves in a box with being so
Bombarded with
specific,
questions
or
every
at
time,
least
yeah.
maybe having some open-ended, flexible language there that doesn't make us come back every time there's a banner request to do it.
Yeah.
See, thought this was gonna be so easy.
That's what
I
happens
wish we
when
didn't
you
have
these
one.
things.
Well, we want to move through,
So, I mean, I think the solution here isn't one of the specific ones, it's some general language that,
Why don't we do this? Or, here's my thought,
okay.
to address this
Well,
issue.
never mind.
If John doesn't have any issue with the first two, which he doesn't, why don't we do two things? One, utilize the provision in the banner policy that lets us waive a provision of the banner policy for a particular applicant, and say, okay, we're going to waive the provisions on 1 and 2 for this particular applicant, and do that. And then the second thing we do is, which will take a little more time, is come up with some language to make the actual policy a little more fluid.
Great idea.
I concur.
Great idea.
I
It's
concur
like
with
Solomon,
Selectman
isn't
Bucksbaum.
The wise, wonderful.
But I wouldn't do 3. I mean, unless if
John's
we
saying
relied
he's not
on
comfortable
John
with
for
it.
the specs, and
Yeah.
if John's not comfortable with that, I don't see how we could do
Yeah,
that.
that's definitely not something.
I wouldn't
I
feel
wanna see.
comfortable with that.
Pulling down and pulling down.
Poor
Okay,
tree.
so explain to me how this is going to work there.
That doesn't like trees.
Does anyone have the banner policy? Is that like
I don't have it in
somewhere?
Where would you find it?
I should have it on my computer.
Look at you. Huh. He comes and he's prepared.
I have another issue on the banner policy.
That's your issue.
So then I emailed
Really
it.
like it.
I think you should give it to Jason.
That's a big decision.
I know.
Right? Don't you agree?
What do I need?
Don't get me in trouble.
Oh, that's great.
I'm always in
For-
trouble.
I'll let us resolve, I do have another banner question,
Oh,
unrelated.
goodness gracious.
To
All
this
right.
amendment.
So, can we put the other thing
Is this a
back up?
banner question for tonight, or can we wait on it? 'Cause we
What? No, I have the
executive.
policy.
Waiting for our call.
Well, it's related to the
Okay, that's fine.
upcoming town and the upcoming municipal municipal vote.
Oh.
That I,
Municipal,
the vote that's coming up on May 3rd for both budgets.
oh,
And there's been I know there's talk, the PTOs would like to put out a vote today sign, banner. They've heard about this new banner opportunity. They'd like to put out and pay for a generic, no date, vote for the town and Region 15 budget today. Or maybe it'll just say school budget today, so it'll be evergreen.
Can we do that?
I don't know.
Well, that doesn't fit within the terms of the policy we have. But also, I think it potentially raises election law issues. Because now
I'd like to get a formal.
I think we need a clarification.
Yeah,
on
I'd like to
that.
get a clarification
And
from
sadly, I
council on
don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think we need that. I just wanted to bring it so
Yes, Bill.
the first selectman's office can raise that with town council, please.
Okay.
Well, I think there's a preliminary question. I don't think that fits within the current policy.
Which would then open another question to the current policy, which is not finalized or formalized.
Well,
No, this is done.
Is it done? Even
They
though we're
should-
amending it?
We voted
You
for
can
it.
amend it
Right,
at
but
any
They
time.
should have, I think, because we gotta move this along. I
No,
think
this is
essentially
done.
They should send that, Mike, they should send it to my office
Okay.
to request, and that way I
Done.
can handle it through my office to make sure, get them on the,
Good answer.
Done.
I mean, if it comes through the office, I can
I
deal
got
with it and vet it out a little bit and get it done.
That's what I already told her.
So, for purposes of the Friends of the Library request, I would move pursuant to Section 12 of the banner policy to waive the grommets and stitching portion of the policy as requested.
I will second that motion. I will second the
Okay, we have a
grommet
motion on the
stitching
floor,
motion.
any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, then it carries.
Wow, I was really hoping the whole banner policy discussion was done. And then so then the second thing we should do is look into more general language for those two sections to make it more fluid. Not tonight,
No,
just to
not
like amend those sections.
A later
Can we
amendment.
throw it on John's plate?
Okay,
We can come.
and then we're moving down to
Or
Friends of
or
the
our banner
Library.
expert, Jennifer.
The banner request.
So you want
that
this?
it meets, so the banner
Let's see,
request of
we did the
the
amendment.
Friends of the Library.
I guess we have to approve the request.
So they're not asking that we waive the fee, right?
No.
No.
They're waiting for your approval before they give us
Smart move.
So this will stay up. Yeah, because we're not waiving
That
it.
is the one.
So this will stay up from the 17th to the 24th, thereabouts?
Oh, this is coming up.
And can immediately be
Wow.
followed by the
I
budget.
can't believe it's like the end of it.
I would move that the banner application from the Southbury Friends of the Library be approved by this board.
Do we have the drawing of the banner?
Yeah, we
Is it in your
did.
packet?
Oh,
Yeah,
is
it
that
was in
it?
the packet.
I didn't see it, so.
There it is.
Oh, it's lovely.
It's going to have a bunch
All right,
of
I'll second that motion.
Wow.
holes in it, though.
Yeah, it's gonna have a lot of
He
slots
likes
in
that
it.
banner, marketing
Lot of
guy, he
slots
likes
in
that
it.
banner.
Nice, it's lovely.
Love it.
Hope,
They must have.
we need
the
to do
win.
something about our
We
town
already
seal.
said 1 and 2 are done, 3 they need to have.
We need it, I will move that we have to eventually get a higher resolution version of our town
Point,
seal.
Betsy raises a point.
Yes.
So that's the proposed banner, but if they can't do the wind slits in that proposed banner and they have to change that banner, do we want to look at the final banner again?
I don't think can I see the policy again? I don't think our board has to approve it. I think it's the first selectman.
Well, that's good.
My recollection, I think I tried to avoid.
Yeah, having
us
every
debate
banner should
every
come
banner.
before the board. If not, I'd like to propose an amendment. Yeah, well, hopefully, people will want to do it.
Nobody knows this policy like you.
So, just in terms of process, if somebody does want to hang a banner, it goes through the first selectman's office or the town clerk's office?
So where it has to go
First
first?
selectman, okay.
I don't
Sorry, I've
see
been
it.
checking my wife's flights delays.
Why don't we just do this? Why don't we approve it and then also approve the ability of the first selectman to deal with any changes in the artwork?
I'll second that.
You already did.
Trust me
I'm
so
seconding it again.
We don't have a
Does
meeting
Jennifer need
before
to-
the next-
So let's make sure
Jennifer
Betsy
need to-
understand what's, that we get it in the minutes.
Okay, so I move that the Friends of the Library's application for a banner be approved with the conditions of 1 and 2, and number 3 cannot be addressed because the Public Works Director
Right.
is not in favor of it.
While authorizing the first selectman to approve of any art changes that may be required based on the addition of the wind slits.
Wind slits.
Okay.
Get all that, Bets? Okay.
And
Okay.
I still second it, by the way.
Okay. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that will carry.
And, but, by the way, I did find it. All banners are subject to approval by the first selectman.
I feel the
So,
power.
language.
The banner power. I knew that. That's going right to your head.
But the application is approved by the board.
Yes. Okay.
I think
Right?
that makes sense. Yeah.
Right?
They bring the artwork to him, make sure it's okay.
Yeah, let him do it.
He's an artistic guy.
Have
He
to
can
do
figure it
something.
out.
Well, that way it's not left to him whether the banner goes up or not.
Right.
It's fine. We're good.
I think we
Okay,
should
we're
keep
done
talking
talking
about the
about
banner.
Okay, Friends of that's done. Quickly, so we can get to our executive session because our attorney is very ill. I want to make sure we get on. First Selectmen's report. Just want to let you know, we have the most current audited financials received from the Lake Linola Authority. We'll be working with some. There'll be more we're working on. I've asked them to go to show up Monday at the Board of Finance meeting at the request of the Board of Finance. Just a quick update, Mark Cody, we're looking at the fees charged in building department to match, they've not been in many years, And we just want to make sure the fees are covering our cost of this. It's nothing, it's just time to look at it. Pumperg River Watershed, we met, a bunch of people met today. And what they're doing is they're looking, updating, this information just came today, updating the Pumperg Watershed Management Plan to take a look at some of our watershed and pollution points and water quality, which is a great thing. See if we can get some better swimmable and fishable out there. So they're going to be working on updating that, and I want to thank the Pumperg River Watershed people for taking that on. Mike, I will be attending, and I would like to invite you to attend with me, if you're able to, the 39th Annual State of Connecticut Holocaust Commemoration, Friday, April 28th, and I would be proud to.
I will look at my schedule, but I will certainly love to attend with you.
So get a hold of me, I'll give you this.
Yep,
and
I got it here.
You do it, okay. I think it's very important.
And I'll find out if any of the interfaith clergy, including the rabbi, are planning to attend. I know he's attended.
I'll see if I can get you an invite. Yeah. Okay, I'll call the guy.
You got a guy. Got a guy.
All right, and I'd be proud to go up there with you.
That'd be great. Thank you
for that. Basically, that's it. We have some more things to do. If we have quick reports on our liaisons.
I had 2 Region 15 Space Utilization Committee meetings. One reviewed a report done in 08, an analysis done in 08 by Silver Petrocelli and Associates, in which they recommended spending an additional $60 million to build more schools. Keep in mind this is 08, because enrollment was gradually increasing and there was already a shortage of space, and that was about the time we hit the peak of about 4,500 students in the school. And then the Great Recession hit, so this report got thrown into the dumpster. They never did anything. The second meeting I went to, we were presented with the most recent enrollment analysis projections. I have the report here. If you like, I can try to get a digital copy of
That'd
this
be great.
And send it out. I haven't received one yet, and the fonting is so hard to read on this. I'm reluctant to make copies. So the bad news, or maybe it's good news, depending on how you look at it, is that enrollment is projected to decline depending on which projection you use. 18% over the next 5 years, I think. I'm looking at the wrong number. Here it is. 14% over the next 5 years, and that 14% is projected by all 3 of the models that they used. And over the next 5 years, which would take you out 10 years, the models diverge, and we're looking at an additional decrease of 4% or 12%. So worst case, over 10 years, we're down 26%. Best case, we're down 18%.
And 8 years ago, we were building a new school. So I would look at all of these projections with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Me too.
I think the number one thing is that we should be focused on, how do we stop that? It's not a good thing. There's no way to look at potential decrease in enrollment as a good thing for not only our town, but our region.
Here, here.
Well, hopefully our economy in Connecticut will.
Yep. No, I agree. I hear you.
Anything else,
That's it.
Mike?
Oh, we're just going in. Okay, go across this way.
Yeah,
nothing of note from Parks and Recs. I wasn't able to attend the EMS meeting. They did email me just asking. They would like a sort of a going forward plan based on the study that we had talked about looking at with the in-town medic versus not. So they'd like they'd like to get a sense of a plan. I said I would bring it up at this meeting. I have. Region 15 passed the budget. Some French Honor Society was inducted yesterday. Lots of great stuff going on in the district. So May 3rd is the town in school budget vote.
Thank you. Jason?
I've been on trial this week, so I was unable
God
to go to
bless
the,
you.
unable to go to the library meeting last night. I'll find out what happened and report back next time.
I went to court myself for jury duty. It was very
Did you
invigorating
enjoy it?
experience.
During your service.
Did you
I
make
love
it?
The
Justin.
most recent IPOC minutes were in our packet. I don't have anything to add. Economic Development meets next week, and the Energy Task Force has not met this year. That's it.
Planning Commission received 4 responses to their RFP for STS analysis, ranging from 15,000 to 36,000. So they're assessing that, and they'll make a recommendation. Senior Commission is offering, this is important, I'm just reading through my notes so I can give you a real quick. Okay. As part of the business community partnering, Tamath approached the wireless zone in town to offer 2 seminars to our seniors, one on the use of Androids and the other on the use of smartphones and special maintenance of our buses, and there's a process afoot to have wheelchair lifts on all buses. Jeff and I attended the local planning committee's meeting this month. They're a component of SMART, and they had a young gentleman who's a former PHS graduate and in recovery present on the situation with alcoholism and opioid addiction and so forth. And he's gonna get into the school, go back to Region 15, and kind of tell his story and try to reach some of the kids. Selectman St. John was here, and he said that it's an epidemic in his community, overdoses and whatnot. And lastly, SMART will be applying for a $125,000 federal grant to help educate and stuff. So they may need some of our support. So good stuff.
Great work. Lastly, I didn't. You got your packet for Cindy handed out about this. Please take a look at that. Bring it up at the next meeting. This is almost as serious because our volunteers. So let's take a look at that bill. Let's put our thoughts together.
Jeff,
on
I
that.
assume you're reaching out to Art and our other representatives to
This
learn
just came
more?
across.
Yeah, just to learn more about
We'll-
it, though. Yeah.
Right. We'll
Gotcha.
deal with that. Is there any other business? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to move into executive session, inviting Cindy Harrison in, my assistant, with us for pending litigation regarding Barbara Schaefer as communicated by her attorney.
And Bill Ryan by phone.
Yeah, Bill Ryan.
So
Okay.
moved.
Second?
Second.
Favor, aye?
Aye.
We're in executive session.
I will gladly mail it.
Summarize this.
You bet.
As always, I'm the last
bet.
person to know
I have
any of
yet.
these things.
I will absolutely send it to you.
You know everything.
No, I don't.
I'll send it to you tonight when I get home.
Oh, no, that's fine.
How are you? How'd your,
Rosa.
I know.
Oh, gosh, boy.
how'd your paper go? Okay. Yeah? Did you get an A? You should have gotten an A. That's all I'm gonna say.